Good day, everyone. Good day, ma'am. Good day, classmates. Today, I am Cardinal Espinosa from BS Cream 2E, and today I will be discussing the Rule 9 of LEA 104, which is the patrol procedures. Rule 9 talks about the procedures of a police officer must follow. For me, as a criminology student and future police officer, we should know about the patrol procedures that a police officer must follow. The patrol procedures is divided into four categories. We have patrol guidelines, next is the duties of the patrol supervisors, duties of patrol officers, and last is the guidelines and procedures when responding to a calls for the police assistance. Okay, let's proceed and let's talk about the first part, which is under the patrol procedures, the patrol guidelines. That patrol officer must follow first is the observance of precautionary measures and personal safety while patrol. So, a patrol officer must prioritize the safety among others. He should avoid any activities or any action that may endanger his life or the life of others. Because a patrol officer, especially if he is patrolling by foot, is very prone to different criminal behavior. And the second one, guidelines with regards to the patrol, is becoming a defensive driver and one while doing patrol, especially when you are on car, you must follow the traffic rules and regulations. Another guidelines on a patrol procedures is when you conduct patrol, you must make sure that you must select certain route that gives you the best visibility. Because if the community observe that this officer regularly pass the truth, then they they see that the police officer patrolling in the area, they are more likely develop their trust to the members of the PNP, and they will feel secured since there is a police officer who is always conducts patrol in that area. Okay, that is why in selecting our role, it is always a priority to select those areas that gives you the best visibility. And also, it's beneficial to the community as well. Okay, while conducting patrol, a police officer must always look out for the possibilities of the criminal activities. In that specific location, you must always on the look of the possible hideout or the possible criminal or possible individuals who have criminal records in that area. Okay, if you can identify those individuals who have criminal records and then and the residents rather in the area where you are conducting the patrol, then the better. Because when you passing through those roads, you must make sure that you always be vigilant, especially you know that those individuals had already committed the crime and they have the tendency to commit another crime if there are suspicious individuals in that area. You are must always be on the look and observe their activities. And also, as a patrol officer, you must always try to develop a good rapport to the community. So how would you do that? Get to know the member of the community that resides where you are conducting patrol. If there are business in the area or the establishments present in the area, get to know those individuals who own that business establishment because they might be of help when time comes that you need their support. It's okay to talk and to conduct casual conversation with them, the member of the community, since it's a part of a building a good rapport to the common community while also conducting patrol. You must look out for inhabited houses. If there are some houses in your road, then you must always be watchful rather to those places because criminals of the delinquents may make that or can make that as their hideouts or can make that as their hangout and many more. So you must always be on the look for the inhabited houses. So and also if it happens that the resident of the home went somewhere and somewhere else, you must always be in a lift or in a alert because if there is no individuals keeping the place or the resident secured, the higher the tendency that the place will become the target of the criminals, especially robbers. Okay, patrols conducted night time. Make it a habit to shake a gates or the doors to see if they are left unlocked. Why? Because maybe there are robbers inside, or maybe some persons breaking into the houses, and there are possibilities that these things will encourage individuals to commit crimes. So, be on the look, unlock gates and open doors. It's dangerous time for conduct. Paw Patrol. Okay? So, if you are conducting patrol during nighttime, you must be very vigilant. Be prepared to use your firearms at the night, at any time, especially during nighttime, because you don't know how somebody might attempt to harm you or to harm someone else where you are conducting patrol. You should always be prepared and vigilant. And lastly, as a patrol officer, you must avoid loitering in the receptional license, although there are some instances that where a police officer being deployed, especially in places where in that is considered as recreational, since a lot of people will go there and it can become a hotspot for criminality since, since there are a lot of people that interact with each other. So those are exemptions, but if you are not assigned or deployed with a specific class, a police officer must avoid to staying stagnant in the area. What is the consideration considered as recreational areas? Okay, so that which regards with the first part of the patrol procedures, the duty patrol guidelines. Okay, so let's proceed to the next rule, which is the rule number 10. Okay, rule number 10, regarding which is uh, rule number 10 is spot check or accosting pat down searches. Okay, especially regarding to spot check, accosting, and pat down searches, the police officer may stop an individual for the purpose of conducting a spot check, accosting only when reasonable suspicion exists. Reasonable suspicion must be more than just a hunch or a feeling in justifying the stop. The police officer must be able to point to a specific fact that, when taken together with a rational interface, reasonably warrant to stop. Such facts include, are not limited to, the following. For the first instance, upon spot check search, it states that their appearance or demeanor or the individuals suggests that he is part of the criminal act enterprises or is engaged in a criminal acts. These first circumstances where a spot check and search may be allowed to be conducted is, we can say that it is very controversial, because when these circumstances will presented in the court, there will always questions on that specific basis. Did the action of the police officer and can be justified, whether his judgment on the certain person is indeed valid. So if there is no valid reasons to justify that suspicion of the law enforcement is indeed valid, they will just dismiss the case, claiming that the conduct of search is indeed invalid. Okay, so next is the number two. It states here in the number two that the actions of the individuals suggest that he is engaged in a criminal activity. There is a criminal or a circumstances that we can identify, or how the individual acts is very suspicious. Let's say not this happened. This person is running away from someone who is allegedly being a victim of snatching, hold up, and so on. And you happen to be in the area and you see someone who is running away. You so you may be able to justify your action in if you're going to stop the person and conduct some search on the specific or certain person based on how the person behaved during the nighttime, or I mean during that time. So I think that one's of a circumstances that we can relate circumstances. Number two, that's some cases that we relate the circumstances. Okay, let's proceed to the circumstances number three. The circumstances talks about if the person is in an area which is a questionable, where in his presence there is very questionable, when you may inquire upon the person. Let's say it is already in the middle of the night, then the person was sitting in front of the business establishments alone, and he is apart while in the middle of the night, wherein he is in front of the business establishment. Again, you may question that person in that circumstances, inquiring about his alibi and his or her presence in the area at not a specific time. So we move on to our next circumstance number four. If a person is getting some suspicious object that so a lot of object may be considered as suspicious, such as for example that as a drug concealed into as some items, if that's a firearm, concealed into body or into other object that he is carrying. So if you have reasonable suspicion that the person is maybe carrying some illegal contraband, you can justify your option on stopping that person, inquiring about his identity, and maybe hidings, maybe conducting search even without the benefit of search warrant. In situation number 5, we have there is if the suspect clothing lodge in the manner that he is carrying some firearm or weapon, then by all means you have the right to stop and search that certain person. Okay, the number 6 circumstances is where the suspect has been found in the area where the crime was allegedly committed. So you have the rights to question all the individuals who happens to present in the area to determine their possible involvement on the crime that was committed. So you're going to establish whose alibi is indeed true and his alibi is false. So with that you can be able to figure out who commit the crime. If it happens that the person who commit the crime is still in the area, so your first suspect should be those individuals who are present in the area where a crime was allegedly committed. So it is just a valid to question or maybe search those individuals who happens to present in that area when the crime was committed. In this situation number 7 is when the police officer have prior knowledge already with regards to the criminal records of that person he happens to come across. His person would that be valid and the reason already to stop the search of the person. What circumstances in the situation number 7 may be applied if it happens that there is a crime allegedly committed in the area and it happens that the area this person who you you know to have involved into a certain crimes on his past is also present in that area, then that is the time that you are justified to stop and search and maybe conduct some interview upon that person. Okay, let's proceed to the circumstances number 8, where the person proceeds at the site of the police officer. You have the reason to go after the person. If you have already caught the person, you may inquire about the reason why he ran away. Okay, let's move to the pat down search. Okay, uh, pat down search or body freeze of pat down search, body freeze dash slash pat down search. A police officer has the right to perform a pat down search if the individual has been legitimately stopped with reasonable suspicion and where the police officer has reason to believe that the individual possesses weapon okay, on on his person and possesses the threat on the police officers or another person's safety. Okay, circumstances which may be justified. These are the circumstances, okay, that justify the pat down search. So if a spot check or search is already valid, you establish that your action as a police officer is stopping up the person and questioning that person is already established as a valid. Then that's the only time that you are going to look for justification in the order you conduct for body freeze or pat-down search. Okay. Circumstances number one, if you have already if you have a reasonable suspicion that the person has committed the crime and that the crime involved violence or anything that should endanger to the life of others or the life of a police officer, and it involves the suddenly weapon and so on. So if you have the reasonable belief that indeed a crime was committed and the person had committed a crime, you may be conduct a body search on the person without the benefit of search warrant, and that would be valid. And so you need to justify why the conduct of body search is valid for the court to appreciate all the evidences that you will presenting inside the court. Another circumstances when the police officer handles a lot of suspects, you know, if you have a lot of suspects in the area, in that specific cases, you happen to came across them, stop them, and that conduct an inquiry upon them, a verbal inquiry upon them, and there are too many, so it's just proper to first make sure that these persons to whom you are conducting regular inquiry has no deadly weapon in the possession that will endanger the life of the civilian which is present in the area, and as well as the life of the police officer who is conducting the body freeze or pat-down searches. So in the conduct of pat-down search or body freeze, take it to consideration that the time and the location of the area where you conduct the operations are another circumstances that you may justify the conduct on pat-down search is when a police officer is have the prior knowledge to the regards to the behavior of the person which with regards to his records that he often carry firearm with him. Next, if the appearance or the demeanor of the suspect indicates that he is involved in the crime or if he is a member of a criminal organization, then it's a go signal that you must conduct pat freeze or pat down search. Okay, let's move on to the rule number 11, which is the checkpoint. Okay, checkpoint. It is a place where the police checkpoint vehicular, pedestrian, traffic, and the order to enforce the circulation, control measures, and other laws, orders, and regulations. The establishment of the checkpoints must always be authorized by the head of the office of the territorial PNP unit and manned by the uniformed PNP personnel or other units directly involved in the operations may be established mobile checkpoints in the coordination with the unit commander in the area. Okay, proceed to the composition. Okay, authority. We proceed to the composition. In conduct of the checkpoint team shall be composed of, but not limited to the following. First is the team leader. The team leader shall lead and take the responsibility in conduct the checkpoint, preferably an officer with the rank at least police inspector. Okay, next is the spotter, the PNP personnel who will point per profile or suspected vehicles subject for checkpoint. Okay, next is the spokespersons, team leader or a member who is in charge of communicating with the motorist subjects for the checkpoint. Next is the investigation subteam, in charge of the investigation and documentation of possible incidents in the checkpoint, to include insurance or traffic citation ticket, or the TCT, or the traffic violation report. Okay. Search arresting subteam, designated to conduct search, seizure, and arrest if necessary. Okay, the next is the security or security subteam, tasked to provide the security in the checkpoint area. And the last one is the blocking pursuit subteam, team tasked to block the fleeing suspect vehicles. Okay, okay, let's proceed to the last rule, which is my last rule that I will be presented in this, is the internal security operations. The rule number 12. Okay, general mandate. The PNP is mandated to provide the active support to the armed forces of the Philippines in the internal security operations for the suppression of the Communist Terrorist Movement, the CTM, and other serious threats to the nation's security. Executive Number 546 Series of 2006, directing that the Philippine National Police in undertaken active support to the armed forces of the Philippines in an internal security operations for the suppressions of insurgency and other serious threat to national security, amending certain provision of Executive Number 110 Series of 1999 and for other purpose. Okay, and that's all, and thank you for listening.